Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here today, Administrator Powers. I represent Arizona, a border state that benefits tremendously from a strong working relationship with our neighbors in Mexico, Central, and Latin America. But we are struggling to process an increasing number of asylum seekers, particularly from countries in the Northern Triangle. These migrants are fleeing poverty, corruption, human rights abuses, persecution, and violence fueled by narco-trafficking. And they seek to find safety and economic opportunity here in the United States. It's critical that the United States tackles the underlying factors driving this migration so that families are far less likely to make the dangerous journey north. 2 weeks ago, this committee marked up my bill, H.R. 2789, the American Cooperation with Our Neighbors Act, which instructs the State Department and USAID to strategize with local partners, including law enforcement and local governments on both sides of the border, to combat fentanyl trafficking throughout our region, one of the largest drivers of violence and corruption. But while fighting narco-trafficking in the region is key, we must also work to create economic opportunity and to use every diplomatic tool to stop democratic backsliding in the region. Congress should provide strategic long-term support focused on building security and opportunity in Latin America. Administrator Powers, the State Department started implementing the U.S. strategy for addressing the root causes of migration in Central America in 2021. From your perspective, what parts of the strategy have worked well and what parts have not worked so well?
Thank you so much. And thank you for your knowledge of and commitment to addressing root causes. And as you say, when people are on the move in these numbers, it is a symptom of things that are badly broken in their communities, because if you engage these people, the last thing they want to do is leave their homes. It's something none of us would wish to do, but physical insecurity or economic despair has been a major factor. To your question very specifically, I think we have, USAID has made for the first time a real investment in lawful pathways, in labor pathways, and with very modest resources have strengthened the capacity in the labor ministries and in El Salvador, the foreign ministry, to process people who come to the United States on seasonal work visas, the H-2B program, doubling our numbers. And I think those numbers can go up in the H-2A in the agricultural sector as well. That is outsized in its impact because there's the people who benefit from the program, the resources they bring back to their home country. If they overstay, they are no longer eligible, and indeed the country is at risk of not being eligible. So there's strict compliance with that program. But also, if people believe that they can come seasonally, then they get the best of both worlds of being able to come to the United States and earn money if they haven't been able to at home, but also coming back and be with their families. I think something like that has been very effective. Obviously on governance, the trend lines speak for themselves. They're going in the wrong direction across the board in terms of treatment of independent media, in terms of judicial institutions, which are meant to be stewards of Guatemalan, Honduran, El Salvadoran resources, but themselves, falling prey to political influence. We have had to reroute resources that had been invested in government judicial programs. Yep. In Guatemala and in El Salvador to civil society organizations that are holding the governments accountable. So the governance trend lines in the region are very worrying.
Thank you very much, Administrator. The People's Republic of China is increasing its investments in Mexico and Central America, particularly in the energy and telecommunication industries. This has serious implications for United States national interests. In addition, Panama, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Honduras have all severed longstanding ties with Taiwan in the last few years in favor of strengthening their relationship with Beijing. Does the PRC pose a threat to a free and open Latin America, and how is USAID responding to those challenges?
Well, you haven't touched upon the Caribbean, but one way is significantly, alongside the rest of the administrations, significantly increasing our presence in, our programming in, or at least appealing for resources to be able to do that in the Caribbean, which has been very susceptible. I think what DFC is doing with support from USAID field teams on the ground is really important. And then taking advantage of democratic openings or anti-corruption openings like that in the Dominican Republic to channel support, to support nearshoring, which will provide economic livelihoods there, make us less susceptible to shocks and so forth. So there's a lot one can say country by country, but bottom line, to support economic programming, to support democracy and governance, and to always remember our comparative advantages alongside PRC investments.
Gentleman's time's expired.